Welcome back to AI Playground with Abhinav. And this is session 6. Last session, we didn't just build a RAG assistant, we tried to break it on purpose. We threw a prompt injection attack at it, straight up trying to hijack its instructions, and we watched the gates hold. We tested whether it would leak something it shouldn't, like a phone number, an SSN, and anything personal. And we watched the PII redaction catch it before it ever left the building. We hammered it with requests back to back to see if a rate limiter could actually stand between our system and someone trying to abuse it. And then we asked the hardest question of all. If something ever does go wrong, can you actually, and when I say actually, I'm talking about the AI solution, can that AI solution actually prove what happened? And that's where audit logs and full traceability comes into picture. Not just recording that something happened, but making it visible, explainable, and provable. And then we looked at 3 companies living in this real world. DoorDash, who built a 2-tier guardrail that cuts hallucinations by 90%. We talked about RBC, who poured compliance into the foundation instead of bolting it on after something went wrong. And Air Canada, of course, who skipped the gates entirely. And we all know what happened with them. They ended up with a legal precedent named after their mistake. Now, if you haven't watched the last session yet, go back and watch it because everything we built today stands on top of it. And here is the line we landed on, and it's worth carrying with you everywhere from here. Guardrails make the system safe to run. Observability and structure makes it safe to change. And underneath both of those is one truth that's easy to miss. Adoption doesn't come from a good demo, it comes from trust. And why I'm saying it comes from trust is, believe me, that so many, and I'm sure you would have felt the same thing, so many AI pilots, demos, they seems to be working perfectly fine, but the customer is not still allowing to get into the production environment, and most of them fall into that pilot purgatory we talked about in the initial few sessions. And believe me, trust doesn't come from a system that just works. It comes from a system you can actually explain. That's the whole game. Explainable AI isn't nice to have bolted on at the end kind of thing. It's the reason anyone lets your AI anywhere near production in the first place. So that was all about making one AI assistant safe and reliable and easy to change. That is what we covered in the last session. Solid ground, but everything we built was still fundamentally an assistant. An assistant that answers when you ask something or anything, right? And it waits when you don't. That was all we covered in the last session. Today, if you look on the screen, we are moving one level up. We are talking about agentic AI. We are talking about AI agents, systems that don't just answer. They pursue a goal on their own. They plan, they act, they check their own work, and they keep going until it is actually done. And instead of starting with an architecture diagram, I want to start with some fundamentals. I want to start somewhere much more intuitive, and which in my uh, thought process is like a kitchen, and that's what you'll see today. Because a world class chef already works exactly like an agentic AI system. They just do it with pots and pans instead of APIs. Now, once you see that analogy, everything about agents will click. And that's why I wanted to show you with this example of AI chef. And we'll meet this AI chef today. Now, before we meet this chef, let's talk about 3 ways traditional AI and agentic AI are kind of, just different animals. Now, thinking of traditional AI, think of it like a really smart friend who only talks when you talk to them. The second you leave the room, they forget the whole conversation ever happened. Now, on the other hand, agentic AI is more like a colleague you can actually hand something off to. You can give them a goal and they figure out the plan. They will do the work for you and they will learn as they go. You don't have to ask twice. And let's further kind of break them into 3 pieces. What you see on the screen on the left is the scope, the initiative, and the tools. Let's talk about the first one. scope. With traditional AI, it's one question, one answer, and that's it, done. You have to be sitting right there for a single step. With agentic AI, you set the goal once and it keeps going through, however many steps it takes, whatever it takes, how many tool calls it requires, how many queries it requires, and will keep on going until the job is actually finished. So that is the fundamental difference in terms of scope within a traditional AI and an agentic AI. Second is initiative. Now, traditional AI just waits. You are the one doing all the driving. It's just a calculator crunching whatever you feed it. Agentic AI doesn't work like that. Agentic AI doesn't wait around. It plans, it takes actions, checks, how that went, replans if it needs to, all on its own. No hand holding. Now that is on the initiative, right? Third one is tools. Traditional AI only knows what it learned back when it was trained, and that is it. That's it. Frozen in time, no way to reach outside itself. However, agentic AI can actually go out and do things. Search the web, call an API, pull something from database, run some code, open a file, right now, right away, kind of, in real time. Now, here is a picture I would want you to keep in your head. Think about a vending machine, all right, and versus a pit crew. A vending machine is a traditional AI. You press a button, you get exactly what you pressed, right? Nothing more, nothing less. Want something else, you have to press it again. Now think about a pit crew, which is like an agentic AI. You don't tell them which wrench to use to change the tires. You just say we need to win the race, and suddenly a whole crew is handling the tires, the fuel, the strategy, the radio, and whatnot, right? All on their own. So all you have to do is drive. So you focus only on the drive. And this isn't just a nice metaphor. McKinsey 2025 research found that teams actually using agentic AI, they saw a 10 times jump in productivity. So that's three-dimensional down, three to go. But the next one, which is not in the slide, memory, is the one that really changes everything. The best way to understand memory isn't another slide. It's a kitchen, and I'll tell you why. Picture a world-class chef. Now, they don't just follow a recipe or something that they have written in, word for word or in some document. They look at the customer in front of them, remember dishes they have made for them before, reach for exactly the right tool, they get the right tools in place, and they taste as they go, and they keep adjusting until the plate is perfect. That right there is basically the whole idea of agentic AI. Now just swap or remove the apron for an API. Now let's try to break down this chef into four pieces. Okay. Now on the first column on your screen, what you see is your kitchen tools. Now this is what the chef is using, right? The pots, the pans, the knife, oven, thermometer. Now each one does exactly one job, and it does it very well. The chef is the one who decides which tool to pick or which tool to reach for. The tools themselves don't think, they just can't execute. That's exactly what tools are for an agent. Tools like web search, a calculator, a file reader, an API call, and whatnot. Now, none of them are smart on their own. They just do what they are told to do, and they do it really well. Now, what you look at the second column is the chef's knowledge. Everything they have picked up through years of training, a real understanding of ingredients, how flavors play off each other, how to improvise when something's missing from the pantry, how to handle a dietary restrictions on the fly. This is the chef actually thinking, and that's your LLM, the brain of the whole operation, the part that reasons, understands, and decides what to do next. Now, look at the third column, the chef's memory. Now, there are two kinds of memories, right? There is this short term stuff, today's order, a table that just asks for less spice, and then there is a long term stuff, the recipe book, which is really just a running record of everything that's worked before. Now, onto that, add in customer history, like who is allergic to what, past feedback on what landed and what didn't. Even those little kind of, personal notes chefs like to keep, last time it was more salt, or some, this is a pinch of honey that I added. something like that, right? Now that's the agent's memory, something that holds on to the present moment, and something else that remembers everything that came before it. And finally, the chef's goal. What you look on the extreme right in the green. Now, this chef's goal, make this customer a great dish. That's the only goal a chef is working for, right? It starts with a request. The chef plans out steps on their own, adapts if an ingredient's missing. The chef will taste it, adjust it, and maybe he'll taste it again. And only when he's satisfied, he will send the plate out when they are actually happy with it. Now, that's agentic behavior, chasing a goal on your own and not stopping until it's actually right. So, tools, brain, memory, goal. Four pillars, and every single one of them has a direct match on the AI side. And I took a stab at it. Let me try to map them out one by one and let's see how it looks. So, what you see on the screen right now is from chef to AI agent, and we have tried kind of mapping these elements. So, let's see how it goes. So, here is the whole chef mapped over in one shot. The pots and the pans are the tools. The training is the brain. The recipe book and today's order are the memory. And the customer's request is the goal. Now, put a chef and all four of those together, and what you get is an agent brain, tool, memory, and a plan, all working as a one. But there is one more piece we haven't talked about yet. And that's the piece that actually makes this agentic, not just smart. It's called the react loop, reasoning plus acting. Because a good chef never just cooks blindly. They think, they act, they taste, and they adjust. And they do it repeatedly until it's right. And here is what that looks like in real time. Look at the thing on the right side. This customer wants a low carb Italian. And he says, I will make a zucchini pasta with truffle oil. Now, that's the brain reasoning through the goal and deciding what to do next. Now, look at the act part. Reach for the spiralizer, start prepping, heat the pan. That's the agent actually using a tool like searching, reading a file, running a calculation, and whatever the task needs to be. Third step, observe, which in terms of chef is taste it, and he says, too bland, need more garlic or maybe some more lemon. Now that's the agent checking the result of what it just did. Like a chef kind of tastes its food, checks it, adjusts the recipe and whatnot. So it is basically observing and tasting, right? And the final step, and that is the important one, repeat, adjust the seasoning, plate it, taste it again, and keep looping until it's actually tastes good and it actually looks good. Now, that loop, think, act, observe, and repeat, is what turns a smart brain into something that actually finishes the job on its own. So, so, so let me take a pause. So here is the full equation. Agentic AI is the brain plus the tools plus the memory running on that loop of cook, taste, adjust. And that's what gets you all the way to a goal that's actually truly done. Now, let's finish this grid, right? We started with three parameters of the grid. So let's try to finish this grid, okay? So we already talked about scope, initiative, and tools. Now let's talk about dimension 4. So what you see on the screen on the extreme left is memory. Now, traditional AI wakes up with no memory every single time you talk to it. Every conversation starts from zero like you have never met before. While on the other hand, agentic AI actually remembers. It remembers your preferences, your history, what you talked about last week. It slowly builds a picture of you, that I hope it sounds familiar, right? You must have worked in your Claude sessions or GPT sessions, right? The trail is already there. Now that's just our chef and the recipe book again. Except instead of notebook, it's a database here. Now dimension 5, orientation. Now think of a traditional AI like a satellite tracking a car, and that satellite follows your car wherever you drive. And the second you stop, it stops too. Now, you are the one steering that satellite. That's the traditional AI. Agentic AI is more like typing a destination into your GPS and letting the car actually drive it itself. Like a self driving car. It navigates, it works around obstacles, and it arrives without you even touching the steering wheel. Right? So that's all about orientation. Dimension 6 is important one. This is self learning. Traditional AI doesn't get better on its own. Someone has to sit down and manually retrain it. That is slow, that is expensive, and needs a whole damn data team. It's very expensive. Agentic AI, on the other hand, it just gets a little smarter every time it runs. And improvement isn't a project you schedule. It's built in. It's by default. If you remember one sentence from all this, you kind of make it this one. Traditional AI extends your keyboard. Agentic AI extends your workforce. And that is why every industry, every organization is going towards agentic AI. They are all gung ho about agentic AI. Everybody wants to develop AI agents and productionize them. And that's the real shift. And it's happening right now, not someday. And I would like to grab your attention with some numbers, and I am sure I would have covered it in some of my previous sessions. But because it is important, let me reiterate and rehash. 79% of companies say they have adopted AI agents, but only 11% are actually running them in real production. And believe me, that's a huge gap. And it's not a technology problem, it's not a solution problem, it's not a model problem. It's a strategy problem. It's the trust problem. The companies closing that gap are the ones actually building everything we just walked you through. The numbers make the case on their own. Agentic AI deployments are seeing a 171% average return, according to Gartner. Meanwhile, IDC, on the other hand, expects that by next year, 40% of AI projects are going to get cancelled. And not because their model or the solutions were wrong, simply because they never kind of moved past the traditional AI stage. And that 11% actually running agents in production, that's the club we want to join, right? And that's the club you are joining. Now, we have fully defined a single agentic chef, right? And I would say let's consider him an AI agent, right? Now, here is a natural next question. What does those 11% organizations or 11% projects who are actually in production, what do they build next? Do they build a bigger chef, or do they build a brigade? Now, any serious kitchen runs a brigade. An executive chef who sets the plan and owns the outcome. That's your orchestrator agent. You have heard about the sous chef, right? Who breaks that plan into stations. That's your planner agent. Line cooks, each running their own station in parallel. That's your executor agents. And an expediter at the pass, checking every plate before it goes to the table. That's your verifier agent. Now, this is exactly the shift happening in production AI right now. Anthropic found multi-agent teams outperform a single agent by over 90% on the hard, parallelizable work. Now, there is a real bank running 5 coordinating agents, credit data, transaction patterns, regulatory checks, market context, and then an orchestrator trying to tie them all together. Now, PGA Tour built a research, write, edit brigade and cut content production time by roughly 10 times. Now, one great chef gets you into that 11%. Just imagine a brigade running in sync, and that is how you can actually stay there. So, today we drew the whole map, right? We talked about the 6 dimensions that separate a traditional AI from agentic one. We talked about a kitchen and a chef that made brain, tools, memory, and a goal actually click. And one honest number to sit with: 79% of companies say they have adopted AI agents, but only 11% are actually running them for real. But a map isn't the same as a journey, and that's exactly where we are headed next. Next episode, we stop talking about the kitchen and we open one live, and we are aiming straight for that 11% we talked about. We are going to hire our own brigade. an orchestrator, a planner, an executor, a verifier. And I'll show you exactly why each one earns their place on the team. We'll stock the pantry, wiring these agents up to real tools and live data, running that same think, act, observe, repeat loop we just learned. Except this time, it's actually cooking. We'll run a real service and see for ourselves when it makes sense to hand off one step at a time versus running stations in parallel. And when something breaks live on camera, because it will, and I want it to happen. We are not going to cut around. We'll fix it together right there. So that's all for today. If the grid and the kitchen story are the things that finally made Agentic AI or AI agent make sense, do me a favor, hit subscribe, turn on the notification, because next time we are not mapping the kitchen anymore, we are cooking in it. A real multi-agent brigade built live, step by step, starting from scratch. Now, one more thing before you go, drop a comment telling me what you want your first agent brigade to actually look like, or what do you want your agent to accomplish. Your answer might just become the demo we build together in the next session. So, see you in that kitchen. Stay curious, stay disciplined, keep building. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much.